It is 8:10 now. Alabama's Morning News. I'm JT, and Kyle Moran joining us now, Young Voices senior contributor and also political commentator on what is happening these days when it comes to the GOP and the messaging about our economy. And you see what's happening on the left with the election of Zoran Mandani there, the socialist mayor, now running that biggest city in America. I'll tell you what a diverse little group of people we have there in New York City bringing this in here thinking, oh my gosh, Santa has arrived with all kinds of free stuff. He's going to save the day here. Kyle, welcome in. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much for having me.
So your thoughts on, let's start with Mandani in New York. I mean, a lot of young people liked his energy and elected him in there. I mean, why do you think he had such an overwhelming response?
Yeah, I mean, New York City is certainly an enclave of its own craziness, so that's not necessarily representative of the country as a whole. But we do have to talk about the inroads that socialism has made with young people throughout the country. It is no longer enough to simply point at somebody and say, you're a socialist, and therefore the electorate will vote against them. We have to be making the message not just that the opponent is bad, but actually to be for something that resonates with voters themselves. And so much lately has been that the GOP is simply not talking about issues that are very relevant to voters. And it's very, it reminds me a lot of during the Biden administration, towards the end there, he was touting out Bidenomics and bringing out these charts showing how inflation actually wasn't that bad and discussing how the voters were actually wrong for thinking that inflation was too high. Mm-hmm. And so in politics, when you're explaining these things, you're losing. And when I watched the president's address last night in Pennsylvania, it reminded me quite a bit of that, because he's essentially saying that these concerns voters have are a Democrat scam.
Yeah, he called him a hoax. You know,
over many votes.
You know, I know what he's saying. He's not saying it's fake news. He's just saying that you know, where we're at is better than what seems to be coming down the pike from everybody here. That the 2026 economy is going to respond better than everybody's painting a picture right now. It was a little tough. I told you in the beginning, the tariffs were going to sting for a minute, but this is all in rebuilding the house here. And in doing that, you know, we're going to have to go through some blood, sweat, and tears. And now we're coming at the end of the year, and everybody's like, okay, well, enough of the blood, sweat, and tears. I'm still feeling the pinch in my wallet, my house. So, the messaging, is it the reality is okay, but the messaging is different and wrong?
The messaging is definitely off base. Some of the points that, no, and this is not just Trump himself. There have been a number of political commentators, Ben Shapiro, I referenced in my article in the Blades there, who basically said, or overtly said, that if you cannot afford to live in New York City, even if you grew up there, you don't deserve it. Which, I mean, if you boil this down to, if one side tells you, yes, you can live where you grew up, and the other side is, no, you don't deserve to live where you grew up, well, that's not going to be surprising how people end up voting on that issue there. Yeah. That just simply cannot be what this boils down to. And it's very unfortunate to see it working out that way. To your point about the tariffs, I think that the tariffs have been far more subdued than most people thought they would be in terms of price rises. A lot of this has to do with far more long-term trends, especially in housing, but also in healthcare costs, which have gone up dramatically over the past decade or two. And the GOP really has not been able to nail down any sort of policy on how to move forward with this. And at a certain point, after a decade or more of being kind of absent on it, it is really going to start to come home to roost.
You know, affordable housing, you're absolutely right about that. And we're just not talking about, you know, in general, the price of homes and neighborhoods, but even apartments, you know, north of $2,000 for minimal living conditions. Healthcare, as you mentioned, is extremely expensive. And it seems that for so many young people, there is no way as a single family couple, for instance, that got married, have student loan debts, that both parents, you know, or both people in the marriage starting out have got to be working, or they can't afford to get ahead and do anything. You know, the days of, we're going to have, you know, 2 or 3 kids and, she's going to stay home and raise the kids. I mean, you got to be banking a lot of money to be able to pull that off in today's society. So what's the cause of this, and how do we fix this?
That's where it starts to get a lot dicier. But the first step is going to be addressing that there is a problem here. The points you were just making are all excellent. People who are just starting out today, I mean, you can be making a considerable amount of money after taxes. You're really not having that much to show for it all, especially given how much all of these costs have gone up. And the biggest problem here is the right will talk about concerns about falling birth rates and then be totally absent. And I mean totally absent on these issues. If you're in your early or mid-20s or late 20s, recently married, looking to start a family, let me tell you, that's going to be a very important issue to you. I mean, the average cost of a family health insurance plan in this country is just unfathomably high. And if you go on, I would ask all of your listeners to go on Google when they get a chance and look at politicians in their area and nationwide who are talking about bringing down the cost of health care. They're all going to be left of center. Most of them are going to be very far left of center. And to be honest, a lot of people on the right have just been trying to downplay that there's even an issue on this. Marjorie Taylor Greene took a lot of flack for her stances, saying that, yes, this actually is an issue. And now, after all the stuff she was saying previously, this was what actually led to her resigning.
Well, you see what's happening with the candidate for governor in South Carolina. She's similar, kind of made of the same thread, that she's pushing back on a lot of GOP people that are saying everything's fine, don't look here, nothing to see, yada, yada, yada. And she's not budging on these things. So maybe you're right that the conservative base needs to get back to where Donald Trump was, that got him into the White House again, and addressing the concerns that were a matter to people in everyday American homes. Safety at our border, crime in their cities, better affordable situations with the economy. And, he's been trying to do that as far as the economy goes all year long. So maybe there will be a turn of this ugly worm in 2026. I think we're going to have to wait and see. But I do agree with you on the messaging and the don't be tone deaf and, know the room. And the room's saying this, just don't say, what you're saying is not real. We're going to show you it's not real. Well, it's time. I mean, we're at the end of the first year of his presidency, and hopefully things will come around in 2026. I'm optimistic. The president obviously is, the constant optimist, but I think that we will make the changes as far as listening and as far as understanding what's really on people's minds in average Americans trying to make things happen, including kids coming out of college and trying to get their feet on the ground to get going. And I think we'll see a big change. If we don't, we're in big doo-doo when it comes midterms next year.
Yes, indeed, and I sincerely hope you're right on that.
Yeah, I certainly am optimistic about it, and so far so good with the president as far as I'm concerned. He's moving us in the right direction in so many areas. I got to trust him on this one, too. All right, buddy, always good to catch up with you. Thank you so much for being with me. Young Voices contributor